What's going on, everybody? C4, welcome back to more C4, where we're continuing our 2023 NFL Draft breakdown as it relates to the Philadelphia Eagles, where we're doing a little mini-series in the 2 weeks leading up to the draft. And every single day, we're going to go through a specific position and talk about prospects I think fit the Eagles' needs based upon the Eagles' draft picks and everything in between. Yesterday, we broke down the quarterbacks, and I gave out some options that we could look for, backup options behind Jalen Hurts. Today, we're going to be taking a look at maybe the most polarizing position as it relates to the draft for Philadelphia Eagle fans, and that is the running back spot. Now, it's BIJAN Robinson. BIJAN Robinson to the Eagles. BIJAN Robinson at pick 10. BIJAN Robinson trading back in the first round. Ultimately, is BIJAN Robinson a worthy first-round pick, wherever it may be, between picks 10 and 30 for the Philadelphia Eagles? I'm going to make an unbiased argument and then give you my opinion on what I think the Philadelphia Eagles should do. But before we look at the draft players, let's take a look at what we actually have in the league right now. Who are currently our committee? Because let's be honest, we're a committee approach. We got Kenny Gainwell, who was our 5th round pick in 2021. Obviously, I reacted when we made this draft pick. That was my favorite pick. Maybe not, I wasn't necessarily Kenny Gainwell was the best pick from 2021. That was Devontae Smith. But honestly, I mean, when we drafted Landon Dickerson, I wasn't so much pooping on the player. More so, I just wanted a linebacker. I wanted JOK. But my favorite pick after Devontae Smith was getting Kenny G in the 5th round. And he's been solid. He's more of a scat back, receiving back type option. And he kind of broke out a little bit during the playoff run. We saw some juice there. But is he ever going to be, I don't want to say he's ever going to be a bell cow. Because bell cow, unless we do bring in someone like a BIJAN Robinson, it's never really going to be the case here in Philadelphia. But is he ever going to be like the lead back of a committee, Kenny Gainwell? Or is he always just going to be like a good complementary option? I kind of lead more to the second there, the latter of the two. We got Boston Scott, who's as serviceable as it comes. Pretty much just give him a lot of touches against the New York Giants, the giant killer. We got Rashad Penny. Now, a lot of people, myself included, are gassing this up as if Rashad Penny can stay healthy. This could be the signing of free agency because he's one of the most explosive running backs in the NFL. And while he's been injured and his availability has definitely knocked and hindered his NFL career so far, when he's been on the field, he's played like a top 10 running back, maybe even better than that. He's ridiculous. It's like at any given week, Rashad Penny can give you 175 rushing yards. So there's a side of looking at this saying, we're probably pretty good at running back, or maybe we at least don't need to invest heavy at the position early in the draft because, hey, if Rashad Penny's healthy and we saw Kenny Gainwell, we know what Boston Scott is, maybe you bring in another young back or maybe, someone like Trey Sermon, who was, a 3rd round pick, I think, from the 49ers 2 years ago. Maybe Philly's really happy with the running back room. But by bringing BIJAN Robinson in on an official top 30 visit, maybe not. It could be a smokescreen. I don't know. There's a lot to read into that. But I think when you look at this, at least for me, Rashad Penny has been unable to stay healthy. What, outside of copium, what leads you to believe that he'll finally just start staying healthy in Philadelphia? There's a reason why it's only a 1-year, $2 million deal. If it works out, insane value. But you're getting that small contract because, odds say he's probably going to get hurt. He's probably not going to play 17 games and have a ridiculous season. But he might. So, running back's not a massive need, but you definitely can make the argument, if Rashad Penny gets hurt, it's kind of like if Rashad Penny gets hurt, Kenny Gainwell's not the lead back in a committee. He's more of a complimentary option. We could be ruining not going running back in the draft. So looking at the draft, it's all about the round. Because if we go BIJAN Robinson, it's probably going to be closer to 10. There's a chance, very small chance, but not impossible that he slips to pick 30. There's a chance that no one's valuing running backs in the draft, and he slips past, when you get down there. Cincinnati, they could get ready to move on from Mixon. Buffalo might be looking for a running back. Dallas could be looking for a running back. It could be one of those things where Philly hopes and waits at pick 30 that BIJAN Robinson is going to fall them. It could be like a CD Lamb situation again, where there's clearly a player like, oh, it's so close, and then Dallas just drafts him. You don't want that. So we're going to be talking about BIJAN Robinson as it relates to using our first round pick. And before we get into the prospect, I just think for BIJAN Robinson, I think perfectly for me to say, would I draft C4, BIJAN Robinson at 10? I need to know the board. If Jalen Carter's off the board, Will Anderson's obviously going to be off the board. What are the corners looking like? Is Christian Gonzalez and Devin Witherspoon off the board? If it is, and we can't trade back, I would honestly rather BIJAN Robinson than a future move. I'd much rather Bijan Robinson at 10 versus, obviously I just kind of did a quick mock draft. But like say Skoronski's here, one of those tackles, he's popular. Paris Johnson is still here. I don't honestly think we would consider Broderick Jones at 10. But like let's just say there's a tackle. That's a popular pick at 10. I'd rather Bijan Robinson. That's going to help this team this year, and it's going to help this team for the next 5 years on that rookie contract of being absolutely unstoppable. I think I'd rather that than get Lane Johnson's replacement in 3 years when Lane Johnson retires. Like, it's a top 10 pick. I understand value, and I'm going to kind of go through on both sides of the argument because I understand and kind of feel both sides of the argument to and against getting Bijan Robinson. But if we're thinking about offensive line at 10, it's a tough sell, even though that's the blueprint that Howie Roseman has used to build this roster. You're not really going to look at wide receiver. Jackson Smith and Jigba is, in my opinion, the only first-round wide receiver in this year's draft, which has kind of been a sentiment around the league. And actually, I will get to that in a second in my justification of drafting Bijan Robinson. You could go D-line, but what's the D-line looking like? There's no D-tackle right now. We're top 10 at all. You look at the edge. Myles Murphy's a project. Lucas Van Ness is a project. I like Nolan Smith, but again, Nolan Smith is far from a refined pass rusher. He's much more an athlete that can probably help you on rundowns than he is going to be a guy. And even then, Nolan Smith is just going to be like the backup, the rotating piece with Hassan Riddick. That's going to be the same role in the defense. So again, you're not getting an outright starter. Corner is a different one. I would say if I would probably take Devin Witherspoon at 10 if he's still there over Bijan. Well, let's get to Bijan. This is a running backs video. Now, Bijan Robinson is one of the blue chip players in this year's draft. You've probably heard that already. He's a guy that can't miss to a certain... Like, if Bijan Robinson had 4.3 speed instead of, what do you run, 4.46. If he was 4.37 like Jamir Gibbs, I think, you'd be like locking him in as a generational player. He's ridiculous. 1,500 yards last year at Texas, 18 touchdowns, caught 19 balls for over 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, we'll go with the negative against Bijan Robinson. 1, it's not a Howie Roseman pick. 2, first-round running backs, you could do more. You could do more with less. You see, Isaiah Pacheco was, a 7th-round pick. How many times are there, from rounds 3 to 7, are you getting, very good running backs, and you're not, investing a first-round pick? Valid. Philadelphia Eagles, how's our roster built? Our roster is built by building up the offensive line first and then going cheap at the running backs. We pay for the trenches, and then you just kind of have interchangeable Boston Scott, your Kenny Gainwell. Miles Sanders was, 2nd-round pick? But, still, Miles Sanders is not comparable to a top 10 running back pick, and that's kind of how we've been able to operate, and we've been successful. So, all those things make sense, right? All, the history, Howie Roseman against getting Bijan Robinson. And, if we don't go it's unlikely. I'm still going to say, even though this is a running back video, it's unlikely we go running back at 10. But there's a clip. I can't show how you get demonetized, but there was a clip. It was Howie Roseman on Jason Kelsey's podcast. And he kind of had... They were talking about Bijan Robinson, but this wasn't directly into that. It was a little bit later. They were talking just Howie Roseman about drafting. And he says... You always want to zig when the league thinks you're zagging, especially when you look at Howie Roseman right now. There's going to be a lot of teams that want to copy the Philadelphia Eagles blueprint, right? Everyone wants to copy the winners, and I think the fact that Philadelphia's had such a quick turnaround, such a quick rebuild, there's going to be a lot of teams that are just like, here are the 5 things Philly did to get back here. And you know what they didn't do? They didn't draft a running back. So that would be something where Howie Roseman, maybe he's thinking this could be the wild card. This could be the year. This could be the ultimate luxury pick for the Philadelphia Eagles. Because let's be honest, if Philadelphia select Bijan Robinson at 10, outside of the people that are just incredibly salty that we drafted a running back at 10, there's probably going to be, everyone else is going to be incredibly hyped. Everybody that's playing the Eagles, everybody else in the NFC East is going to go, fuck sakes, now we have to deal with that. It is going to be a blockbuster, 10 out of 10 hype, order his jersey type pick, because that is the type of player that he is. What Bijan Robinson would bring to the offense. 1, he's going to make Jalen Hurts in the RPO game that much more difficult to stop. Full respect to Miles Sanders, full respect to Kenny Gainwell. A committee approach, which we still will probably have a Bijan Robinson. If we bring Bijan Robinson, and I want to try to keep all my points concise here, we're still going to have Rashad Penny. It might even make Rashad Penny better, because then you don't have to worry about the wear and tear. If you can only get Rashad Penny the similar usage that they had in Seattle, fuck, still it works. That means when Bijan Robinson's tired, we still have a guy that can pop it 20, 30 yards on any given play, and maybe we'll be able to extend the longevity of Rashad Penny because he's not going to get the same amount of touches that he was getting in Seattle when he kept getting hurt. You might be able to keep him fresher. You'll still be able to have, obviously, Kenny Gainwell as a weapon. You can put him in the slot and move him around. But you still can keep the committee and then give Bijan Robinson the lion's share of the carries, kind of like Miles Sanders has been doing. So, like, that would work. He would make Jalen Hurts better. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles offense, assuming Cam Jurgens is going to kick from center to guard. Right guard is now Cam Jurgens. That's not a hole to replace Ciamalo. 2 spots, you can make an argument. Philly does not have a proven running back 1 right now, and we don't have a slot wide receiver. I think it's probably best to move Quez Watkins as a deep threat. Bijan Robinson can be both those things. Bijan Robinson is going to be the lead back in our backfield. He's going to be likely a top 10 running back from the second he steps into the league. He's going to be behind one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. He's going to be one of the best skill position players in the NFL on an offense that's loaded with skill position players. And also, like slot, we said we need a slot wide receiver. That's ultimately, it's your 4th option. A.J. Brown's wide receiver 1. Devontae Smith, wide receiver 1B. Dallas Goedert's our 3rd option. And slot / 4th receiving option is where we need to find something in this offense. This is Bijan Robinson. He is that guy. He is a complete running back. He can catch the football. He makes ridiculous sideline catches, soft hands, natural hands out the backfield, instincts, every trait you look for in a running back. Runs with power, runs with speeds, elusive. It's hard to get hit. No history of injuries. He's played 10 out of 10 games in 2021, 12 out of 12 games in 2022. It's can't miss. This is the ultimate luxury pick. And I just don't get, because obviously this video we're going to go through a lot more running backs, but Bijan's going to be the meat and potatoes because that's the big topic right now. I don't get why people are so against luxury picks. We are the roster that is ready for a luxury pick. We have another first-round pick. Pick 30 is a fine range for getting these players that other people are saying we should get at 10. All these other players given this board, assuming that Devin Witherspoon's gone. Even then, they're not playing. We get Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, one of these top corners. They're still not fucking playing unless there's an injury. Slay and Bradbury are going to be our corners. Maddox in the slot. So at 10, if this is the board, let's go to the big board right now. At 10, Bijan Robinson's the only starter. He is the only guy, unless we go wide receiver and get a slot wide receiver at pick 10. You want to talk about, misusing a top 10 pick. You're not using it on the fucking 4th receiving option on the Eagles. Unless there's an injury, which you can't project in the draft, Bijan Robinson at 10 is the only guy that's going to move the needle for the Philadelphia Eagles to compete for a Super Bowl next year if we could stay as healthy as we did last season. And you make that luxury pick there at 10, and I'm not going to advocate. In a perfect world, Philadelphia, you can get one of these teams that wants to trade up for Will Levis. Maybe, there's a lot of smoke right now that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be interested. If you can move back, in the teens, late teens, pick up another 3rd-round pick, get something here between 94 and 219, or maybe get 2 picks between 94 and 219, and get Bijan Robinson at pick 15, 16, 17, that's the dream. But at pick 10, you get your game changer, you get your X factor for your offense, you get the guy that's going to be RB1, our 4th receiving option. He's going to make life easier on Jalen Hurts. You're going to get elite running back play for 5 seasons on a reasonable deal. It's expensive. He's still a 1st-round pick. And then all these other options that we could get at pick 10. Myles Murphy, developmental. Van Ness, developmental. Nolan Smith, developmental player. Any of these other tackles that are going to have to play behind Lane Johnson or compete for right guard. You get those players at 30. You do not get developmental, not expected to contribute players at fucking pick 10. Okay? Like, that is my biggest thing. Where I understand you don't go running back top 10. Philly doesn't go running back. We prioritize the offensive line. 100% true. The other side. You get your blue chip player. You get the game changer. You get the guy that's going to help us win the Super Bowl, and Bijan Robinson. Those are the 2 arguments right now, right? But at the end of the day, the thing in the middle, that's my face right now, is a top 10 pick. If we're not trading back, a top 10 fucking pick needs to contribute. And for the Philadelphia Eagles to have a top 10 pick, that's a luxury pick. You make the luxury selection, that's Bijan Robinson. But for me, my official quote is, if we can trade back to someone that wants a quarterback and still get Bijan Robinson and acquire another pick. So the other options, now we'll get through it because that is the big debate. You got Jamir Gibbs from Alabama, ran a 4.36. More of a receiving back. I think stylistically, he'd be a good fit. He'd be a good fit in our backfield. But stylistically, what he brings is kind of what we're still hoping Kenny Gainwell, like if we don't sign any running backs or draft any running backs, Kenny Gainwell, like what we think best case scenario for Kenny Gainwell, that's like Jamir Gibbs. Proven receiving back, transferred from Georgia Tech to Alabama last year at Alabama. Didn't have over 1,000 rushing yards, but it was kind of like a committee approach there. But he did have 44 catches, 400 yards. He's probably one of the best receiving backs in this year's draft class, if not the best. Doesn't have a whole lot of wear and tear either. BIJAN Robinson's well over 500 rushing attempts, whereas Jamir Gibbs is under 400. So, I mean, a little bit weird. I think the question is, where does Jamir Gibbs go? He could potentially be in the first round. And like, if we're not getting BIJAN Robinson, I don't want to touch running back in the first round. I'm fully on board with that. But knowing Howie Roseman, like if we trade back from 30, like similar when we traded with the Baltimore Ravens, when the Ravens came in to get Lamar Jackson, we traded at the bottom of the draft. You know, if we get a pick between 30 and 62, we get something in the 40s, and Jamir Gibbs is still there, you know, I'd be about that. Like right now he's 36. Dane Brugler has a first, second round grade on him as well. I'd be interested, potentially, like given where the board is at. But yeah, good fit. Again, kind of fits with Kenny Gainwell. And there again, if they kind of think Kenny Gainwell is at his ceiling, but they want that style of back in the backfield, there you go. Jamir Gibbs is your type. Going to the next tier, though, like that's really, it's kind of like BIJAN Robinson's right here. Then you got Jamir Gibbs at tier 2. And then there's like a decent gap, and then it's like tier 3, and it's kind of a logjam. Of those tier 3 backs, I think Tank Bixby's interesting. I think he's a little bit underrated right now. I think it's because a committee approach. He broke out at Auburn, was a freshman all-star in the SEC. And then Auburn sucks. They suck throwing the football. They became like a fucking, Naval Academy, and they got Jaquarius Hunter, who's a really good running back. So it was kind of a 1-2 punch there at Auburn, and not getting the sheer amount of carries. Tank Bixby, even though he had a lot of volume, he's over 500 total carries in his career. There was a little bit of like a 1-2 there going on at Auburn, so he didn't have the gaudy numbers. Didn't necessarily maintain the pace that he started as a freshman, but he runs hard, man. I'm a big fan of his game. Ran a 4.45 at his pro day, even though that was his combine. Under 1,000 yards last year, but almost 3,000 total yards in his college career, over 3,000. And he's just, he reminds me, he's not as fast because I think Isaiah Pacheco ran 4.37, but he's just a hard runner. I think he'd be a fan favorite here in Philadelphia. If we're talking 3rd, 4th round, starting to get into day 3, if he's still there, I think Dane Brugler has him as a 3rd round pick, just inside a top 100 player in this year's draft class. I do think he's getting slept on a little bit. I think Tank Bixby would be a very nice, viable option. But then again, this is where, the drop-off in talent's enough where it's like, where does Tank Bixby really fit? Like, really, all these names I'm going to finish up, where do they really fit versus just rocking and rolling with Kenny Gainwell and Rashad Penny on the 1-year deal? But Bixby's nice. If you want a little bit more of a power option, we got Zach Charbonnet out of UCLA. Definitely tested better than expected. He's a Michigan transfer. I did not think he was that good of an athlete watching him play. Really reminded me of James Conner a little bit. He's a better athlete than James Conner, for sure. I think when you get Charbonnet, definitely feel a little bit more comfortable as a potential 3-down back because he's a dog. He fits that dog mentality. No worries about pass pro. Probably one of the better pass pro running backs in this draft class. And 4.53, 215 pounds. Like, that's a good mix. Agility is what it is. Agility, you want that, but at the end of the day, with the road graders we have on the offensive line, like, just follow the hole. The hole is going to be created. You don't need a whole lot of pop and agility behind the line of scrimmage to create your own yardage. Just hit the yard. So, like, from that, he definitely fits the scheme a little bit. And right now, when you look at the Eagles' backfield, do we have a running back that you feel really, really confident in pass protection? Probably not. So, like, Charbonnet could fill that void. Taizley Spears is another hot name. You might not be super familiar, obviously, from Tulane. It's not one of the bigger schools. But my God, man, his USC bowl game was insane. He had 1,600 yards last year, 19 touchdowns, 22 catches, 250 yards. Just a really nice weapon. Obviously, a little bit concerns about the opposite of Charbonnet. Like, is he going to be a 3-down back? Is he going to be more of a novelty committee player, which is likely the case, and that's what we rock in Philadelphia. If we don't bring in a BIJAN Robinson, we're going to continue just having multiple guys there in the backfield, and someone like Taizley Spears would be pretty nice behind the line of scrimmage for the Philadelphia Eagles. We got Chase Brown if we want athletes. I would love this one. Canadian bias all aside. Outstanding athlete here in Chase Brown. His thing is kind of, I'd say his vision is kind of what knocks him a little bit. He's the kind of guy that, while he has 4.3 speed and elite explosion and have 25 reps on the bench press is great, he's an outstanding athlete. He's an outstanding athlete. Those guys, when they play running back, they usually don't have the best vision. They usually kind of are the guys that take the yards that are given to them. And again, fits well within her scheme. You're going to get a lot of yards given to you behind the Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. And if you have this kind of athlete that can get a chance to get to the second level and make some guys miss and get that home run speed, you got to take it. So right now, Chase Brown, he's projected to go 4th round, 5th round, somewhere in that range. Really, all these running backs are that I'm going to talk about. He would definitely be a very interesting option for Philadelphia Eagles, would easily be the most explosive running back in our backfield. Dwayne McBride's a little bit of a sleeper. Might be some value here. He's also in that logjam, projected to go 4th, 5th round, but he might slip a little bit because he wasn't able to test. But you want to talk about elite production. Pretty much anytime I looked at a box score from a UAB game, he had 150 yards. Last year, 1,700 rushing yards, 19 touchdowns. But he's a one-dimensional back. You know, some questions about his pass pro. Definitely not a receiver. Has played 2.5 years in college, has 5 total receptions. So, again, if you're looking for a compliment, you're assuming Kenny Gainwell is going to be the receiving back. Someone like Dwayne McBride, who is very productive, could be interesting. He's one of those guys I wish tested, though. I feel like his tape would be a little misleading. Could not get a true read of how fast. He's a guy that could be surprisingly at 250 pounds run a high 4.4, but I honestly could see him running like a 4.6. It's weird. It's a weird guy to watch. Chris Rodriguez Jr. out of Kentucky. He has some off the field. I think he got arrested last offseason, but a proven SEC running back. Gives you a little bit more power. Ran and pretty much like Zach Charbonnet. Tested a little bit better than I would have expected. But, I mean, this is a guy that almost has, well over 3,600 yards in the SEC, over 35 touchdowns. And, he's a bruiser. He's a power back. If that's an element that we want to look to add to the backfield, currently don't really have that. Definitely an option. We got Sean Tucker from Syracuse. Now, this was one of the weird ones because he didn't test, but then he, I don't know if it was his agent or whatever, showed some workout highlights. And, if he did test, he'd been like a 9.6 RAS or something like that. He ran 4.3, 40-inch vertical and stuff. But another player that's just very productive in college, has a lot of touches, almost 600 attempts, so he has a lot of mileage, but 3,100 yards in his career, 27 touchdowns. He can catch the football fairly well. He's over 64 catches, 600 yards, 4 touchdowns in his career. But he's just, he's a change of pace running back, would be very much fitting in the mold of keeping with the committee. And I think he's got a nice little value pick. He could be available day 3, later day 3. And if we're not going to prioritize running back early, that's likely the range that we would draft a running back. But my favorite, my sleeper, this was before he even tested at his pro day, that I was like, that guy would be awesome in Philadelphia, is Israel Abanikanda from Pitt. I knew he was going to be fast. He is the best second gear in the draft class, in my opinion. All the running backs, running backs is usually my favorite because I'm a full running back myself. I love scouting the running backs. Scouting. I'm a YouTube fucking guy on YouTube. But and he was probably my favorite. He's my favorite. If we don't get BIJAN Robinson at 10, but we do want to still get a running back, Abanikanda is my guy. Last season, he had 1,400 yards, 6 yards a carry, 20 touchdowns, 12 catches, 150 yards, and another tutty. Second team All-American, first team All-ACC. He's just a one-cut, explosive runner. Now, the knock against him is he's likely going to be a committee guy. He's not going to give you a whole lot in pass pro. Not super proven as a receiver. He's shown that he can, but it's not necessarily an asset. But Abanikanda is so explosive, and given what we have, just understanding that we have a running back room and that he would be part of a committee of, you're going to have Rashad Penny as your RB1 as long as he's healthy, Kenny Gainwell coming in, Boston Scott's there. None of those guys, though, are really the home run hitter. I guess Rashad Penny would be of the bunch, but, is he... Again, the availability is the issue there. Someone like Abanikanda could be that 4th running back you keep on your roster that's just home run. When it's 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, the other team's getting gassed or sick and tired of seeing the RPOs with Hurts, you just let Abanikanda bust one off for 75 yards, and he takes it out. So freaking explosive. He gets to the second level, there's not too many guys. DBs, linebackers in the league, obviously you get some linebackers to run 4.3s. You're not catching him. So I really do think the value is there. Right now he's projected to go in the 3rd to 4th round. And that's, again, 94. If he's there at 94, I think those are my options. In closing on the running back spot, we got 25 minutes, but this is going to be one of my longer videos because of the BIJAN Robinson take. If I'm going running back for the Eagles, and I have it my way, right now in these 200s, if we can land for my first video, Dorian Thompson-Robinson as our backup quarterback, one of those, yeah, but he likely he's going to go earlier. But if we're talking about running backs, the dream is trading back from 10 into the teens and getting BIJAN Robinson. But for this simple of what we have, I either want BIJAN Robinson at 10, and if you don't do that, Give me a Abanikanda at 94 if you truly want to add a running back in this year's draft class or in the Eagles front office. But I'd love to hear what you guys think about the running back spot. I'm sure it's going to be quite polarizing whether or not to get Bijan Robinson or not. I just hate this sentiment amongst the football snobs on Eagles Twitter that, like, if you say you want Bijan Robinson at pick 10, you're like some casual fan. I just think you're being too much of a football hipster. At the end of the day, you get your developmental guy at 30, you get your contributor day one game changer at 10. And there's a checklist of players I would take ahead of Bijan Robinson at 10, and if they're all off the board and no one's biting for a trade down, get the X factor. Get the guy that's going to elevate every single person on your offense, including the MVP runner-up. You're going to make the MVP runner-up better going into next season on top of whatever development Jalen Hurts sees this offseason. It's an easy call for me. But I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. That will do it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If it's your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. We'll be back tomorrow with wide receivers. Maybe let me know in the comment section below what wide receivers you'd like to see the Philadelphia Eagles get. I do think it's a position, again, at that slot spot that we're going to be looking to get an improvement. So let me know some names you guys want to see, and I'll see you guys back then. Thank you very much for watching. Till next time, it's Boise 4. Peace out. Love ya. Have a good one.